Another terrorist attack has rocked Jammu and Kashmir today. A grenade blast at one of the busiest bus stands in Jammu. The police says Hizbul Mujahideen was behind it. One teenager was killed, 30 others have been hurt. This comes exactly 3 weeks after the terrorist attack in Kashmir's Pulwama. A manhunt was launched immediately after the strike. The attacker has been caught.
In the initial rounds of questioning, he has confessed to his crime. His name is Yasir Javed Bhatt. He is son of Javed Ahmed Bhatt, resident of Khanpura, Dasen. He is also known by the name of Arhan. In the preliminary interrogation, he has revealed that he was tasked to throw this grenade by the district commander of Hizbul Mujahideen in Kulgam by the name of Farooq Ahmed Bhatt alias Umar.
Meanwhile, the Pakistan government continues to drag its feet on Masood Azhar. On Tuesday, WION had reported that the Interior Ministry of Pakistan has recommended the arrest of the Jaish-e-Mohammed chief. The ball was in the court of Prime Minister Imran Khan and it's still there. He has taken no decision, or he's not been given a signal by his military masters. Now sources in the Pakistan government say that the Prime Minister wants to consult opposition leaders and, more importantly, defence chiefs before he can decide. Of course, he wants to consult with the defence chiefs. His global PR effort, meanwhile, is already crumbling. The government of Pakistan said that it is cracking down on terror, but it continues to shield terrorists like Hafiz Saeed. Pakistan has blocked the United Nations from interviewing Hafiz Saeed, the mastermind of the 26/11 terror attack in Mumbai. Some time back, Hafiz Saeed had moved a proposal. He wanted to get himself removed from the United Nations sanctions list. For that purpose, an official from the United Nations must conduct an in-person interview of Hafiz Saeed. That is the procedure for delisting. That is what Hafiz Saeed wanted. So the UN appointed an independent ombudsman to evaluate the plea. But the ombudsman cannot interview Hafiz Saeed. The Pakistani government is not allowing him access. It has refused to grant visa to the United Nations representative, as a result of which the UN has now rejected Hafiz Saeed's plea. That should be good news, news that India should welcome. But here's the catch. Sources told WION that this ombudsman, this UN representative, had already found sufficient evidence to keep the ban on Hafiz Saeed. This recommendation was endorsed by the United Nations Sanctions Committee. So the Pakistani government decided to block the representative to avoid more embarrassment and to risk being exposed further. These are critical times. Hafiz Saeed, remember, was banned by the UN Security Council back in 2008. This was right after the terrorist attack in Mumbai. In 2017, Hafiz Saeed filed an appeal with the United Nations through a Lahore-based firm. He could file a UN appeal while he was still under house arrest in Pakistan. So much for crackdown. Meanwhile, the focus remains on the other big terror mastermind in Pakistan, Masood Azhar. We have no doubt about his outfit, the Jaish-e-Mohammed's role in terror attacks in India. But for those who have, here is a clinching answer. And this answer comes from none other than Pervez Musharraf, former president and army chief of Pakistan. When General Musharraf was president, Jaish-e-Mohammed was routinely used to attack India. Musharraf has said it in so many words himself. He was giving a telephonic interview to a Pakistani channel. The clip has gone viral because here Pervez Musharraf is revealing Pakistan's worst kept secret. He has confirmed the tie-up between the government and terrorist groups. The question then is, if it bothers General Musharraf so much, if it pricks his conscience, why did he not break this nexus when he was in power, when he was president, when he was army chief? Why did Musharraf not take action against the terror outfit during his tenure? He was asked this question and this was his response.
वो ज़माना और था जिसमें हमारी इंटेलिजेंस वाले इन्वॉल्व थे, उसमें टिट फॉर टैट हो रहा था बिटवीन इंडिया एंड पाकिस्तान. वो पाकिस्तान में बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट वगैरह करवा रहे थे, हम उधर करवा रहे थे. तो ये चलता रहता था सिलसिला उस जमाने में शुरू में. तो उस सिलसिले में इन्होंने कोई खास कार्रवाई नहीं की, तो मैंने भी इंसिस्ट नहीं किया.
He did not insist, he says. Musharraf's stance is in line with most Pakistani heads of state. push terror, create terrorist sanctuaries in Pakistan, and when they hurt you, blame India. Musharraf's statements are particularly bizarre because in the same breath he also says that the Jaish-e-Mohammed tried to kill him. He says he was the target of at least 2 assassination attempts by the Jaish-e-Mohammed. It's a bit hard to digest. Which head of state will not act against a group that tries to kill him? Forget head of state. Which individual in his right mind will do nothing against a group that tries to kill him?
क्योंकि मैं भी इनको हमेशा कहता रहा हूँ कि ये टेररिस्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, इन्होंने ही तो मेरे ऊपर सुसाइड अटैक किया, तो और तो बाकी तो लिहाजा ये टेररिस्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है और इनके खिलाफ कार्रवाई पूरी होनी चाहिए. आई एम वेरी हैप्पी कि गवर्नमेंट टफ स्टैंड ले रही है इनके खिलाफ.
So now belatedly, General Musharraf is welcoming reports of a crackdown on the Jaish-e-Mohammed. The crackdown, which is also a farce, but at least this interview has again put on record the government's confluence with terrorists. Now, here are a few questions that come to mind after hearing General Musharraf's comments. The gist of this interview is this. 1, that successive governments in Pakistan have failed to take action against terrorist outfits because they work with Pakistan intelligence agencies to attack India. If a former Pakistani president confirms this, what should India do? Take action. And if the Indian government takes tough action against terrorism in Pakistan, should Pakistan not welcome India's actions if it really is a peaceful country like its Prime Minister Imran Khan claims? Point number 2, the timing of Musharraf's comments. Pakistan is on a tight deadline with the Financial Action Task Force. They have to prove that they are stopping terror funding. If Pakistan's ruling establishment cannot take action against outfits like the Jaish-e-Mohammed, should institutions like the FATF show lenience to Islamabad? Point number 3. If Pakistan's government, intelligence agencies and terror outfits like JEM work with the same goals, that is to target India, shouldn't India declare Pakistan a terror state? Perhaps Imran Khan should consider taking a deep, hard look in the mirror and answer these questions. But then again, they do not need Pervez Musharraf to expose them. They do a pretty good job of it themselves. For starters, the Pakistan government and ministers cannot make up their mind on some very basic questions. Is Masood Azhar in Pakistan? Does the government of Pakistan know his whereabouts? We know the answer to both these questions is yes, but the Imran Khan government is tying itself up in knots trying to answer. Then they got mixed up with numbers. How many Indian pilots did Pakistan have in its custody last week? First they said 2, then they said 1, now they say 3. It's incredible. They need an abacus.
हिंदुस्तान के मिग्स ने पाकिस्तान की रिटेलिएशन में बॉर्डर क्रॉस किया, उनको शूट डाउन किया गया, और मैं ये भी आज कहना चाहता हूँ कि पायलट्स हमारे साथ हैं.
The one leading Pakistan's Ministry of Confusion is none other than its Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi. His interviews to global TV stations on Masood Azhar have made him a flip-flopper of epic proportions. First, Mr. Qureshi asked India to hand over proof. He said Pakistan needs proof to arrest Masood Azhar. This was after the Jaish-e-Mohammed itself had claimed responsibility for the Pulwama attacks, and yet Mr. Qureshi wanted actionable evidence or proof from India. Then he referred to Masood Azhar as JEM chief. He said Masood Azhar is seriously unwell and he is not in a position to leave his house. In another interview, Mr. Qureshi said that the Jaish-e-Mohammed is not responsible for the Pulwama attack. How did he know? He was asked this question, and so Mr. Qureshi said on camera that the Jaish-e-Mohammed quote-unquote leadership had confirmed it to him. He said the government of Pakistan was in touch with them. Mr. Qureshi further said that people who are known to Jaish claim no responsibility, and in the same breath, he invited India for talks. Is he optimistic or is he delusional? You decide. Let me also tell you that Mr. Qureshi is not the lone culprit here. Pakistan's army has beaten all in making U-turns. Army spokesperson Major General Asif Ghafoor says that the Jaish-e-Mohammed does not exist in the country. Then he contradicted himself by saying that the responsibility for the Pulwama attacks did not come from the Jaish-e-Mohammed inside Pakistan. And wait, there is more. Another U-turn. Major Ghafoor said that action against Jaish-e-Mohammed is not being taken under anybody's pressure. How does this even work? If the Jaish-e-Mohammed does not exist at all in Pakistan, as the army spokesperson said, then who is Mr. Qureshi speaking to? And who is he referring to when he says Jaish-e-Mohammed leadership? Again, if the Jaish does not exist in Pakistan, why is the army spokesperson saying that the responsibility for Pulwama did not come from the Jaish-e-Mohammed operating inside Pakistan? Where is the Jaish-e-Mohammed then? And we are not done with that yet. As Major Ghafoor said, if the Jaish-e-Mohammed is proscribed in Pakistan, can the government show the list of actions taken against it? And if Pakistan is not taking action against anyone under anyone's pressure, why did the government place 44 members of banned organizations under preventive detention yesterday? And that list, by the way, includes 2 members of Masood Azhar's family, the head of Jaish-e-Mohammed. In simple words, if there are no terrorists in Pakistan, who is the government cracking down on? Major Ghafoor may be a seasoned soldier, but numbers are not his strong suit. Soon after the Indian airstrikes in Bala, he tweeted from his personal handle that 2 Indian aircraft had been shot down inside the Pakistani airspace. 1 pilot was arrested, 2 others were in the area. That's what he said. Fact check now. It was 1 aircraft and 1 pilot, Wing Commander Abhinandan Varthaman, who is now back in India. Where are the other 2? And the missing aircraft? Major Ghafoor has not answered, and I doubt he will. The fact is that Pakistan has a vested interest in protecting Masood Azhar, which is why he can hide in plain sight, just like Osama bin Laden did, in Abbottabad. Masood Azhar's safe house is in Bahawalpur. That's in the Punjab province of Pakistan. He lives inside Jamia Masjid Subhanallah. That's his address. It's a mosque. It is along Pakistan's National Highway 5. It is minutes away from Pakistani Military Academy. This complex itself is believed to be spread across 3 acres. Reports say that it has several modern facilities, including a state-of-the-art gymnasium and a swimming pool. An F-6 fighter plane is on public display, barely a kilometer away from Masood Azhar's safe house. Just 8 kilometers away is the Bahawalpur Cantonment. It is home to Pakistan's 31 Corps. This is a unit of the Pakistani army that reportedly has around 30,000 troops. Masood Azhar was born in Bahawalpur. This is his hometown. When the Jaish-e-Mohammed was proscribed by the United Nations in 2002, Masood Azhar started a trust to raise funds for his terror activities, and reports say that he used the very same money to build the state-of-the-art safe house. Some other reports suggest that a secret nuclear facility of Pakistan is also quite close to Masood Azhar's fortress. Now let's tell you about what's behind those walls. This complex is used to recruit and train terrorists. Recently, the Pakistan government claimed that it has taken control of this compound, but there's nothing to show that it has curbed the activities of the Jaish-e-Mohammed. Are they there to crack down, or are they there to secure Masood Azhar and his outfit? It is well known that Masood Azhar enjoys the support of the Pakistani military and the security establishment. Experts believe that the resurgence of Masood Azhar would not have been possible without the aid and support of the Pakistani army and the ISI. So basically, the architect of the Pulwama attack is living in a safe house that is behind high concrete walls and protected by Pakistan's military and security establishment. Who does this remind you of? Osama bin Laden, perhaps. The Al-Qaeda boss had a similar safe house in Abbottabad, also in Pakistan. He was found and killed within 9 minutes. The Americans carried out the operation. Can India do the same? That's the question we are asking tonight. Can India send troops to gun down Masood Azhar inside his fortress? The Prime Minister gave a hint.
अब ये कहते हैं ये तो चुनाव वाला खेल है. जब सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक हमने पहली बार की तब कहां चुनाव था भाई? ये हमारा सिद्धांत है. हम घर में घुस के मारेंगे. मुझे सत्ता की कुर्सी की परवाह नहीं है. मुझे चिंता मेरे देश की.
The Finance Minister of India was more specific. Listen into what Arun Jaitley said after India conducted the Bala court strike, a preemptive strike deep into Pakistani territory.
मुझे याद है कि जब यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स की नेवल सील एबटाबाद से ओसामा बिन लादेन को ले गई, तो क्या हम नहीं कर सकते? ये केवल कल्पना होती थी. इच्छा होती थी, एक फ्रस्ट्रेशन था, निराशा थी। आज तो वो भी संभव है।
Political declarations aside, can India really carry out such an attack? Let's assess minus the rhetoric. With the Balakot operation, India has proved that it has the capability to hit deep inside Pakistan. Balakot is around 65 kilometers from the line of control. India used the Mirage 2000 in this mission, a jet that travels at speeds of more than 2,000 kilometers per hour. At that speed, it will take just a few minutes for an Indian jet to reach Bahawalpur, where Masood Azhar is believed to be living. Bahawalpur is nearly 150 kilometers from the Indian border. Similarly, the capital of Pakistan, Islamabad, is a little over 100 kilometers from the border, and the garrison city of Rawalpindi, the seat of the Pakistani military, is nearly 133 kilometers. If Indian jets can drop bombs in Balakot, can they not do the same in Bahawalpur? What will it take to carry out a mission like this? India could deploy its own special forces. We're talking about the Indian Navy's Marine Commandos, or MARCOs, the elite special force of the Navy. Earlier this year, the Indian government had also cleared plans to raise an elite unit of commandos drawn from all the services. They will be placed under the Armed Forces Special Operations Division. The special wing will be built on the lines of the US Special Operations Command, or Navy SEALs, who took out Osama bin Laden. We spoke to Major General G.G. Dwivedi to better understand what such a mission will take.
We have created a inter-service organization in which we are going to have special forces of all the three wings, that is Army, Navy, Air Force, under one organization, which will be commanded by a two-star general, Major General, under the aegis of Headquarter Integrated Defence Staff. So therefore, this type of operation will be a combined operation where all the three services, special forces, will be involved, because it will require, as I said, either aerial insertion or ground insertion, then hitting the target and coming back from the target.
Many other defense experts we spoke to have the same opinion, that India is very much capable of conducting a complex operation just like the Americans did in Abbottabad, but they all point to one crucial factor: actionable and real-time intelligence. Such a mission, they say, cannot be successful without precise intelligence.
You can just take Osama bin Laden's case in point. You see that special operation was done on 2nd May 2011. What it involved was three things. Firstly, building very accurate intelligence, then inserting the forces onto the target, and then exfiltrating, means exiting from the target. The first building intelligence is one of the most important component. You'll be surprised that this operation intelligence gathering started way back in 2007. So almost 4 years that it took to build up the intelligence. Now, until you have very specific intelligence and real-time intelligence, means that at that point of time when you're engaging the target you're engaging, that individual or that person must be present.
Unfortunately, the debate in India is still over Balakot. In election season, there's much politics and a growing demand for proof. And those who are looking for proof should consider this story from America. Going forward, the CIA will not have to report the casualties caused by airstrikes. The American president has revoked an old policy. He's basically giving his security personnel greater latitude to conduct airstrikes, less scrutiny, more freedom. As expected, several rights groups have criticized Donald Trump's move. They say it reverses a hard-fought effort for transparency and accountability in drone strikes. The development comes at an interesting time. It follows a growing demand in India for the government to provide proof of casualties resulting from the Balakot attack. A number of political parties and members of the public have accused the government of using the strike as campaign fodder ahead of the general election. They want evidence of the damage inflicted on the Jaish-e-Mohammed terror camps to be made public. That's all very well. Transparency, we understand, is the bedrock of democracy. There should be transparency. But even transparency has its limits, especially when it comes to safeguarding strategic secrets. There has to be a line. There needs to be a line. And secrecy is one of the most critical tools of national defense. The preemptive strikes in Bala were based on actionable intelligence. The government has said so. Security forces have said so. If critical details about the operation come out, they could reveal the source of the information. This could compromise national security interests. The Indian Air Force has, in fact, shared proof of the Balakot airstrike with the government. This was after a report by news agency Reuters used images from commercially available satellites to discredit the Indian operation. The Indian Air Force has rejected these claims by Reuters. It says Indian jets had dropped precision bombs that hit a Jaish terror camp. End of story. It is now up to the government to decide if it wants to share the evidence or not. We do hope better sense prevails on all sides. We also hope that politics over national security stops. Not only does it hurt national interest, it is an insult to those who die in the service of the nation and those who continue to safeguard the nation. Tonight, away from the political bickering, we want to bring you the story of some fierce women who stayed calm and faced terror head-on in Pulwama.
At least 40 CRPF personnel were killed on February 14th in Pulwama in one of the deadliest terror attacks on security forces. The bus carrying martyred Jawans was part of the convoy comprising 78 vehicles of Central Reserve Police Force. Part of the convoy was also the CRPF's battalion of women, who witnessed the horrifying blast and its gruesome consequences at close quarters.
बहुत बड़ा धमाका हुआ सर, काफ़ी बड़ा सर, एकदम आगे की लपटें एकदम ऊपर तक सर, और जो ऐसे डेड बॉडी ऐसे उछल के नीचे गिरी सर, एकदम टुकड़े टुकड़े हो गए सर मेरे सामने एकदम, और कुछ ऐसे घायल हो गए सर, उनको डेड बॉडी लेके जा रहे थे हॉस्पिटल में.
Their vehicle was the third behind the bus that was blown up by the Jaish-e-Mohammed suicide bomber. But the brave women personnel kept their cool and faced terror head on.
अचानक एकदम से ब्लास्ट हो गया तो शॉक लग गया कि क्या हो गया, ऐसे कोई सोच ही नहीं पा रहा था कि ऐसा कुछ होगा. फिर सब लोगों ने अपनी अपनी जगह पोजीशन ली. जो हमारे सर लोग थे बाहर उतर के गाड़ी को कॉर्डन के कुछ देर तक फायरिंग चली. फिर जो उसके वजह से हमारी CRPF की गाड़ी उड़ गई थी, मतलब ब्लास्ट हो गया था. तो उस बात को सुन के हमें बहुत बुरा लगा था कि हमारे जवान इतने शहीद हो गए, और फील हुआ उनके लिए. बाकी कोई और डर तो लगा नहीं था, क्योंकि हम फौजी हैं. एक दिन तो हमें अगर हम देश के लिए कुछ काम आ रहे तो ये तो हमारे लिए बहुत अच्छी बात है.
In spite of the deadly attack, the morale of the women CRPF soldiers is still high, and they are ready to avenge the killing of the CRPF Jawans.
देश में कोई मनोबल कम नहीं आया है. हम यही चाहते हैं कि हम उग्रवादी से लड़ाई करें और हम उनके बदला जरूर लें.
Of the 6 women companies of the CRPF, 4 are in Jammu and Kashmir, securing its shrines and key government installations. The threat of violence looms large, but these women continue to stay on the course and soldier on wherever they are deployed. Women from across the country are part of this women battalion. They face problems both on the personal and professional front, but they do not let anything dampen their spirit. They take pride in their job and the uniforms they wear. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
But first, India's political pulse. India will get its first Rafale jet from France in September this year. And until then, it seems, politics over the deal will continue. After a dramatic legal dogfight yesterday, it was time for India's politicians to slug it out today. An early morning press conference by Congress President Rahul Gandhi added to the Rafale drama. He used the government's stolen documents argument to take a jibe at Prime Minister Modi. He said the government has a new tagline now, Sab Gayab Ho Gaya, which translates to everything has vanished. He said the Rafale files have disappeared, just like jobs and economic growth in the country.
एक नई लाइन निकली है, गायब हो गया. 2 करोड़ युवाओं का रोजगार गायब हो गया. किसानों को सही दाम गायब हो गया. 15 लाख रुपए का जो वायदा था, पैसा जो बैंक अकाउंट में आना था, वो गायब हो गया. किसानों के बीमा का पैसा गायब हो गया. नोटबंदी और GST में कारोबार गायब हो गया. ढोकलाम गायब हो गया. और राफेल की जो फाइलें हैं
गायब हो गई।
Rahul Gandhi also said that the government was interfering in the Rafale probe. He attacked the Prime Minister for holding parallel negotiations in the Rafale deal. In fact, he called for a probe on the Prime Minister.
कागज में साफ लिखा है नरेंद्र मोदी पैरेलल नेगोशिएशन कर रहा था। कागज में साफ लिखा है कि प्राइस बढ़ाई गई है और किसी एक व्यक्ति ने नहीं, सब लोगों ने कहा है, नेगोशिएशन टीम ने कहा है कि नरेंद्र मोदी ने बाईपास सर्जरी की है। आप कार्रवाई कीजिए, कागजों पे कार्रवाई कीजिए, मगर इन पे भी तो कीजिए जिनका नाम कागज में आ रहा है।
Finance Minister Arun Jaitley responded to Rahul Gandhi's allegations. He defended the government's position. He said that although India has a free press, national security is a priority. He said the Congress president had got his facts completely wrong, and I quote, "No dynast can claim to be above the Supreme Court or the bag." A 3,200-word-long sermon on privacy from Facebook. Beat that. The company's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, says Facebook plans to encrypt conversations in its messaging services to ensure privacy. Suddenly, Mark Zuckerberg sees privacy as a significant aspect in Facebook's future. But should his promises be taken seriously at all? After all, Facebook's CEO has done nothing but apologize whenever his firm is pulled up for privacy violations. Here's Mark Zuckerberg's new business plan. He calls it his vision, sure.
That was a big mistake. It was my mistake, and I'm sorry.
A long-winded post to convey one simple message. Facebook CEO says that he wants to convert the social media platform from a digital equivalent of a town square to a digital equivalent of the living room. In a nutshell, Zuckerberg is now batting for privacy. He plans to pivot the platform towards encrypted private messaging. It'll be a fundamental change in the way Facebook works. Besides end-to-end encryption, Zuckerberg plans to eliminate the permanence of messages, lower retention time of messages, and store less metadata about message content. In a blog post, Zuckerberg says that in future, communication will shift from public to private, where people can be confident that what they say to each other stays secure. The same confidence that platforms like Facebook help destroy.
We didn't take a broad enough view of our responsibility, and that was a big mistake. It was my mistake, and I'm sorry.
But should Zuckerberg be taken seriously at all? He has a history of breaking privacy promises. The anonymous login feature that he hyped up so much in 2014 never saw the light of day, and the Clear History button was announced 10 months ago. No user has seen that feature so far. But if at all, for a change, Facebook sticks to its promise and makes a shift towards privacy, what could happen? A. The company will need to find a new business model. The newsfeed would become redundant, and so the lifeblood of Facebook, advertisements, will be out of the window. B. Facebook will face a ban in many countries the moment it shifts to end-to-end encryption. Russia and Vietnam want data to be stored locally for law enforcement reasons. And C. Law enforcement issues will hurt the social media giant because threats of terrorism and misinformation will become harder to track. Zuckerberg has run from pillar to post to apologize over privacy breaches, including the Cambridge Analytica saga. News on Facebook is unreliable, clickbait is the name of the game. And ironically, journalists who were hired to check the spread of fake news don't believe in Facebook themselves. Innumerable instances of user data breach and profiling have haunted Facebook. Users are beginning to feel the fatigue. This announcement from Zuckerberg could be similar to his grand pronouncements in the past, most of which he hasn't kept. And to top it off, the tech giant says that he will not store data in countries which have a track record of violating privacy and freedom of expression. Now, believe it or not, it's the CEO of Facebook who's saying all this. The same Facebook that sold user data to a third party, the same Facebook that is accused of influencing election campaigns, and the same Facebook which can't check the spread of fake news, misinformation, mob lynching, and many more. Bureau Report, World is One.
China's telecom giant Huawei has sued the US government. In a district court in Texas, Huawei said that the law limiting its business in the US is unconstitutional. It has challenged Section 889 of the National Defense Authorization Act. This act was brought in by Donald Trump. It bars American agencies and contractors from procuring Huawei's equipment and services. It limits Huawei's business. Huawei says this act is an attempt to blacklist the company in America.
In AA9 is unconstitutional in its singling out of Huawei by name, blacklisting it, damaging its reputation, and denying it any way to clear its name and escape sanction. Its attack on Huawei is purposeful and punitive. It's based on numerous false, unproven, and untested propositions. Contrary to the statute's promise, Huawei is not owned, controlled, or influenced by the Chinese government. Moreover, Huawei has an excellent security record and program.
The Huawei case is a tipping point in the ongoing confrontation between the US and China. The last year alone saw US imposing import tariffs on Chinese goods and China retaliating with import tariffs on US goods, basically a full-blown tariff war between America and China. 2018 ended with the arrest of Huawei CFO Meng Wanzhou in Canada at the request of America. Meng Wanzhou is accused of bank fraud, wire fraud, and violating US sanctions on Iran. Meng's arrest is just one part of American action against Huawei. The US accuses this company of spying and data theft. The US believes that Huawei is closely linked to the Chinese state. Several other countries have followed suit, and that has prompted Huawei to hit back.
I object to what the US has done. This kind of politically motivated act is not acceptable. The US likes to sanction others whenever there's an issue. They'll use such methods. We object to this. But now that we've gone down this path, we'll let the courts settle it.
The company has already sued Canada and now taken the US government to court. Crucially, Huawei continues to get the backing of the Chinese government.
在美国起诉美国政府的这一个举动呢，我们认为企业通过合法的方式来维护自身的正当权益，这是完全正当的，也是完全可以理解的。至于你问到中国政府是不是会同中国企业一道采取这样的诉讼举动，到目前为止我没有。
Huawei says that there is no proof of any wrongdoing by the company, but experts say that Huawei's lawsuit could get dismissed. That is because courts in the US are generally reluctant to second-guess national security determinations of the government. And by the way, Huawei is not the only company to have sued the American government. Russian cybersecurity firm Kaspersky challenged a similar ban on its software in America, but that case was also rejected. The judges have to decide to take Huawei's case. If they decide to do it, then the Trump administration could be asked to submit proof of spying by this company. The Huawei case could continue for months or even years. But more than this specific case, the issue threatens to derail the trade ties between the top two economies in the world. Such a prolonged trade spat would hurt global economy and value chains. US President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping are expected to meet this month to ease trade tensions, but this lawsuit could hurt the prospects of a truce. Huawei saga also threatens to hurt the relationship between China and Canada. China has halted imports of various agri products from Canada, and that was after Meng Wanzhou's arrest. In addition, China has also arrested several Canadian diplomats and accused them of stealing state secrets. If proved, such a crime carries severe punishment in China. The Canadian diplomats under arrest could be used as pawns in this power game between America and China. It is clear that the Huawei case will be a significant factor in the ongoing trade dispute between the US and China. The story is far from over. Now, this was a flop summit. It yielded no deal. But that's not how the North Korean government sees it. At least that's not how the North Korean government wants its people to see it. So the government has released a film on Kim Jong-un's second summit with US President Donald Trump, the summit that just concluded in Vietnam. This film, minus some important details. Our next report tells you what the movie doesn't.
North Korea's state TV has aired a documentary glorifying Kim Jong-un's recent visit to Vietnam. The 78-minute documentary that followed Kim's 11-day train journey to Hanoi for the summit showed the highlights of Kim's 9-day stay in the Vietnamese capital, including his exchanges with Trump, visit to North Korean embassy, and a tour of tourism and industrial sites by his top aides. The strictly controlled North Korean state media, however, very conveniently omitted the failed nuclear negotiations with President Donald Trump. The film features the two leaders smiling and shaking hands even after they ended the summit without a deal, and saying they had agreed to sit face to face more often and continue constructive dialogue. The documentary also cited Kim saying North Korea and US must put an end to their decades-long animosity and confrontation. But there was just no mention about the lack of an agreement following the summit. The Hanoi summit broke down due to disputes over how far North Korea was willing to limit its nuclear program and the degree of US willingness to ease sanctions. Washington and Pyongyang blame each other for the talks' breakdown, but both sides still leave the door open for future negotiations.
I want to keep the relationship. We will keep the relationship. We'll see what happens over the next period of time. But in the meantime, we'll be talking. Mike will be speaking with his people.
North Korean documentaries are typically propaganda, venerating Kim Jong-un, the subject of a strong personality cult among the North's 25 million people. Some observers say omitting the status of the nuclear talks also shows the North Korea's hopes to continue negotiations, while cleverly excluding information on any diplomatic failures that could damage Kim's leadership. Predictably, much of the documentary is devoted to burnishing Kim Jong-un's credentials as a statesman. And the documentary's release comes at an interesting time when the news of North Korea rebuilding a key long-range rocket site is doing the rounds. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.